Multiple tropical systems developing across northern Australia, one heading towards Western Australia that needs watching, another in the Coral Sea that's not a concern for Queensland. And longer range, there is a pattern building that deserves attention. Let us break down what is actually happening. Right now across Queensland, conditions vary widely. Down on the Gold Coast, temperatures are pushing 35 degrees on Sunday. Up at Mount Carbine in far north Queensland, they hit 30 degrees by mid-morning with 85% humidity. That is typical build-up weather. Heavy rain moved through overnight there. Around Petrie, just north of Brisbane, it's been dry, desperately dry. That is the contrast we're dealing with. Hot and humid in the north, dry and waiting for rain in the south. The Bureau of Meteorology has tropical low 17U sitting in the Coral Sea right now, and I'll tell you straight up, this system is not a concern for the Queensland coastline. But it's worth understanding because it tells us about the broader pattern we are in. Here's what is happening. We've got a deep monsoon trough running right through the Coral Sea. That trough has multiple areas of low pressure spinning up along it. 17U is the main one. On satellite imagery, you can see rotation developing. Not strong rotation, but enough to classify this as a fully fledged tropical low. It's on the path to potentially become a tropical cyclone. But conditions aren't favourable. The wind shear across the northern Coral Sea is high. You can see it on satellite. All that wispy cloud looks like cobwebs stretching across the region. That S wind shear, it is tearing these systems apart as fast as they try to organise. When you've got a strong monsoon trough like this, wind shear is typical. Storms struggle to consolidate. They remain broad and messy. 17U has another problem. It's monsoonal in nature. What that means is the wind field is skewed. The northern side of the system is abnormally strong compared to the southern side. And Queensland is on the southern side. That is good news for us. The strongest winds, the heaviest rain, that is all going to stay north of Willis Island, out in the Coral Sea Islands territory. Queensland gets the weak side of this system through Thursday and Friday. This low moves east, away from the coast. No threat to populated areas. Wind gusts around Willis Island might reach tropical cyclone strength, but Willis Island is uninhabited. The Bureau watches it, uses it for data, but there's no one there to worry about. Now, by Friday into Saturday, a second tropical low develops northwest of 17U, up near the Cape York Peninsula. This second system moves south and interacts with 17U. The Bureau hasn't picked up on this second low yet in their official outlooks. But it's there on the models. What we end up with is a strong tropical low embedded in a much broader area of monsoon low pressure. That is another sign this 1T intensify into anything significant. For a system to be classified as a tropical cyclone by the Bureau, you need tropical cyclone force winds in at least 3 out of 4 quadrants around the centre. Monsoonal systems like this are dominant on one side and weak on the other. They rarely meet that classification. So while 17U might have winds equivalent to a weak cyclone in some areas, it won to be officially named. Think of it like Tropical Cyclone Koji recently. Koji caused problems without ever being classified properly. Same principle here. The forecast models show this system staying monsoonal through the weekend. Then things get interesting. The AI forecast models, which prove themselves accurate with Koji, show high certainty in the short range. Those dots clustered tightly together mean the models agree. As we push out towards the end of January, the low pressure moves further east into the Coral Sea. Eventually it is so far offshore, it is irrelevant to Queensland. So what impacts are we actually looking at from 17U? Over the last couple of days, the Torres Strait and the far northern Cape York Peninsula have copped some strong winds and locally heavy rain. That continues through Wednesday and Thursday. If you're in that region, this is build-up season. This is what it looks like. Isolated heavy downpours, strong wind gusts, muggy conditions. Nothing unusual for this time of year. For the rest of Queensland, 17U brings nothing. No rain, no wind. It stays offshore. For those around Petrie waiting for rain to fill the pool, for those across southeast Queensland hoping for a decent soaking, this system doesn't help. You're re-waiting on something else. And we'll get to that. Now let's talk about Western Australia. This is where attention needs to shift. There's a tropical low developing off the Kimberley coast, and this one has a much higher chance of becoming a significant tropical cyclone, much higher than 17U. The models are converging. That means agreement. When you see 30 or 40% of ensemble members showing the same outcome, you pay attention. Right now, the forecast models are increasingly confident this system intensifies and makes landfall somewhere around Derby on Saturday. potentially as a Category 2, maybe even Category 3 tropical cyclone. Here is what is different about this system compared to 17U. Wind shear is lower. Sea surface temperatures are favourable. The system has time over open water to consolidate before landfall. The AI models show a tight cluster of tracks all heading towards the northwest coast. Some models have this reaching Category 3 strength with sustained winds around 150 kilometres per hour, gusts to 200 kilometres per hour. Now let's keep perspective. The cyclone code around Broome and Derby is some of the strictest in Australia. These communities are no strangers to powerful systems. Category 3 cyclones and below they handle routinely. This isn't T Tracy, this isn't T a Category 5, but it is significant enough to watch closely. If you're around Derby, Broome, the Kimberley coastline, this is a watch and monitor situation, not a panic situation. Check the forecast every few hours. See if the models maintain consistency. If they do, you will need to start preparations. Make sure your cyclone kit is ready. Secure loose items. Stock up on essentials before Friday. Don't wait until Saturday morning when the system is approaching. The Bureau will issue watches and warnings as confidence increases. Follow their advice. They read the authority. When they say act, you act. There is a caveat here. This system is small. Wind shear, whilst lower than ideal, is still borderline unfavourable over the next 48 hours. Small systems can fall apart quickly if conditions shift. So whilst the trend is towards intensification and landfall, it's not guaranteed. Keep monitoring, don't assume. But don't ignore it either. The most likely scenario right now is landfall around Derby on Saturday as a Category 2 tropical cyclone. Significant, but manageable for communities built to withstand cyclones. The worst case scenario is Category 3 with a slightly more southern track. The best case scenario is the system weakens before landfall or tracks further offshore. We'll know more by Thursday evening. Now, longer range. And this is where it gets complicated. We need to talk about the first week of February. Major forecast models are showing a very active monsoon burst across northern Australia in early February. That monsoon burst could produce 1 or 2 strong tropical cyclones, potentially in the Coral Sea, potentially in the Gulf of Carpentaria, maybe both. The long-range models can decide where activity develops. Could be near the Cape York Peninsula, could be out near Vanuatu, could be somewhere in between. But there's a pattern emerging, a southeasterly steering flow that would drag systems towards the Queensland coast. On the AI forecast models, out towards the 1st through 4th of February, you can see potential tracks moving southeast towards Queensland. Some ensemble members show Category 4 or 5 systems, dark reds and pinks on the intensity scale. Now, before anyone starts preparing or worrying, understand what this is. This is a trend outlook, not a forecast. We read 10 to 14 days out. Accuracy at that range is limited. But when 30 to 40% of ensemble members show similar development, you can ignore it completely. It's a signal, something to monitor. Not something to act on yet. Here is what I recommend for Queensland. Check back on the forecast in a week. Around the 28th or 29th of January, see if this pattern maintains or dissolves. If a system does develop in the Solomon Islands or the Coral Sea, we'll have up to a week's notice before it affects the coast. Plenty of time for preparation. No point in doing anything now except being aware. The Bureau's day-by-day tropical cyclone genesis probability maps show this trend. High chances across Western Australia today and tomorrow. Moderate chances in the Coral Sea from 17U. Those chances decrease slightly this weekend, but don't drop away. In fact, they build again as we approach the end of January, both in the Coral Sea and the Gulf of Carpentaria. That monsoon trough really ramps up, and with it, the potential for development. So where does that leave us? Let me summarise the 3 situations we are tracking. First, tropical low 17U in the Coral Sea. No concern for Queensland, stays offshore, moves east. Might technically become a weak cyclone, but 1T affect populated areas. If you're in far north Queensland or the Torres Strait, you are already dealing with build-up weather. This continues. Nothing unusual. Second, the Western Australian system. This is the one to watch closely, increasingly likely to intensify into a tropical cyclone. Landfall around Derby on Saturday, potentially Category 2, maybe Category 3. Kimberley Coast residents, monitor this situation. Have your preparations ready. Follow Bureau warnings. Don't panic, but don't be complacent. Third, the longer range pattern in early February, a trend, not a forecast. Potential for significant tropical cyclone development in the Coral Sea or Gulf of Carpentaria. Potential for Queensland impacts. Too early to prepare, not too early to be aware. Check back in a week. Now, for those across southeast Queensland waiting for rain, neither 17U nor the WA system helps you, both too far away. The rain you are waiting for comes from different systems, possibly inland troughs later this week, possibly the longer range monsoon activity if it develops closer to the coast. But right now, the pattern keeps you dry. That S frustrating, especially for areas like Petrie where the dams are low and pools need topping up. But that S, the pattern we're in. Northern areas get monsoon moisture, southern Queensland stays dry. Until the pattern shifts, for those concerned about the November storm repeating on Monday, I understand the worry. That storm caused power outages across Townsville. Lightning hit transformers, loud thunderclaps, scared residents and pets, caused damage to property with sparks landing on caravans. That was an isolated severe thunderstorm. What we're re-looking at now is different. Broader monsoon activity. Less concentrated, but still capable of producing heavy downpours and strong winds if you are in the right location. The question about wind shear increasing on Monday in southeast Queensland is a good one. And it depends on how the broader pattern evolves. Right now, Monday looks like another warm, humid day with isolated storms possible. Wind shear might increase slightly, which would support organised storms if they develop. I do put the chance at about 40 to 50%. That's enough to keep an eye on, but not enough to change plans. For those asking whether wind shear could change and bring heavy rain to Townsville, here is the reality. Townsville needs a low pressure system to drag moisture down from the north. 17U1 to do that, it's too far east. The second tropical low developing Friday might bring some moisture, but it's more likely to move south into the Coral Sea rather than west towards the coast. So Townsville S chances for heavy rain from these current systems are low. Better chances come if that early February pattern develops closer to the coast. One more thing. There has been significant solar activity recently, a near Carrington level solar storm. Some of you down near Gladstone at Awunga Dam saw the aurora. Beautiful photos coming through. That S space weather. Completely unrelated to tropical cyclones, but worth noting because it shows how interconnected our planet S systems are. Solar activity affects our magnetic field. Weather systems affect our atmosphere. Both create spectacular displays when conditions align. So to wrap this up, 3 key messages. 1, tropical low 17U is not a threat to Queensland. It stays offshore, moves east. If you are in far north Queensland, you are experiencing normal build-up weather. If you are in southeast Queensland, you are staying dry. 2, Western Australia has a developing system that needs close monitoring. Derby and the Kimberley Coast should watch this closely. Preparations should be ready by Friday. Don T panic, but Don T ignore it. 3, longer range into early February. There is a trend for active monsoon conditions. Potential for significant tropical cyclone development. Too early to prepare, not too early to be aware. Check back in a week. The Bureau of Meteorology is your official source. When they issue watches and warnings, follow them. These are the experts with the best data and the responsibility for public safety. Stay informed. Check forecasts regularly if you in affected areas. Don T rely on one source. Look at multiple models. Understand the uncertainty. Make decisions based on official warnings, not social media speculation. And remember, we in cyclone season. This is normal. Northern Australia deals with tropical systems every year. Some intensify, some Don T, some affect the coast, some stay offshore. The key is preparation, not panic. Know your cyclone plan, have your emergency kit ready, understand the risks for your area. That S where we stand. Western Australia needs to pay attention right now. Queensland can monitor and wait. And we all keep watching that longer range pattern to see if it develops into something significant. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll keep tracking these systems.